helping grow over time and evolve. As services and features have been released, we thought it'd be a great time for us to start a weekly webinar and just cover various topics. Obviously, G Suite, Chrome, Google Cloud Platform, and then some interesting ones like today's topic. As promised, sessions will be short and sweet. We'll talk about 15 to 20 minutes, cover one or two things that we think will be really beneficial for you. And then if you really like it and want to learn more, obviously you can reach out to us and we'll schedule time with the right folks to give you a deeper dive. And that brings us to today's topic for today, Google App Maker. We've got Christian Schulk from Google, hopefully at some point. But in the meantime, we've also got John Zazzaro from Ignite Synergy. I'm going to give you an overview of App Maker, and then if Christian gets here, we'll do a demo. But at this point, I'll turn it over to John to take it away.
Awesome. Appreciate it. Everybody hear me okay?
Yes, loud and clear.
Wonderful, wonderful. If you want to open up that presentation, actually we can just start from the beginning of it. And I guess it's us kind of, mitigating the time here, make the most of it. It's a lot of slides. I promise we're not going to go through all of it. So if you actually, if you want to back up to slide 1, we can kind of just go through, talk a little bit about AppMaker and some of the use cases. I think would be great. So hello everybody. I am John Zazzaro with Ignite Synergy, also the Chief Marketing Officer for Ignite Synergy. And AppMaker University is one of our products that we're going to, in business units that we're going to be talking about today, about all things AppMaker. So just some of the things that we're going to talk about and cover. Actually, if you want to go to back to slide 3, we'll just kind of go through each one until Christian hops on. So let's kind of start from the beginning for those of you that don't know what AppMaker is. All right, so next slide. So, in the land of development right now and in the way that modernization is going, you have a lot of medium to enterprise organizations that are looking for solutions other than custom development, which can be very timely and costly, and looking for ways to empower the organization and members of the team that aren't traditionally coders, if you will, to have access and the capabilities to be able to build business critical applications and find solutions outside of hiring on massive development teams or really outsourcing a lot of that work, so you really own a lot of the IP that you are developing and you keep it all in-house, which is why it's important. And a lot of these big enterprise apps are great at solving universal problems. Next slide. But the challenge is each person's needs within the organization are unique. And this is a big reason why AppMaker initially did come to fruition, and which is why Google was using it internally before they built it and scaled it out for, allowing everybody else to access it that has a G Suite license. Yeah, and it looks like we got Chris hopping on.
Oh, hey there. Can you hear me okay?
You bet we can.
Okay, sorry, it was, I guess it looks like Sophie was unmuting me and then allowing me to show my screen. But I can hold off if you like, since you're going through your slides. I don't want to interrupt.
Yeah, no, it's okay. I've actually, the slides is going to be a great download for the audience later. We're just going to talk about the end of it because I really wanted to get your presentation and demo in there to kind of explain what AppMaker is, and I think you can do a lot better job being from Google than I can.
Oh, okay. So no worries. I can go ahead and switch over to AppMaker right now and do a quick demo. Does that work for you guys?
Excellent. That'd be great.
Okay. So this is AppMaker. Hopefully you can see my screen. Okay. Let me just dock.
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. So as we were discussing about what to show, I figured like a 5-minute just real simple walkthrough of AppMaker just to kind of show you kind of at its core what AppMaker excels at. So in this case, what I'm doing is I'm going to go ahead and create a simple database web application that I'm going to use. I'm going to start by referring to like a spreadsheet and then using the spreadsheet to essentially build out the remainder of the application. So what you're looking at here is the welcome screen for AppMaker. So I don't really need to pull up any of the old stuff, so I'll just close that for now. And then what I have is like a template, a copy of a template app. So typically when you start fresh, you would go File, New, and then you can select from a variety of different templates. And some of these actually have some pretty interesting code behind them, like document approval or like a forum type of app or just different examples. And then plus we have a whole bunch of samples that are listed on our documentations website. But in any case, this starter app is what I'm starting with right now. And so I cleaned it up just a little bit so I don't have to go back and do some manual stuff. So this is basically kind of an empty app that we're looking at. And I'm primarily going to work on this particular page here. There is like a little header section up here that I could customize, but I'll leave it blank or just leave it as is for now. So first off, as you'll know here on the top left, there's like this little data node, and that's where we can register our back-end data models or databases. So in this case, I'm going to click on the plus button, and I'm going to define a data model that's based off of a Google Cloud SQL. And so it says recommended because mainly that's like our most supported best way to have like a back-end database experience. But there's other options that you could also look into. But for now, I'll just use like the default Cloud SQL. And then I'm going to go ahead and just name the actual model, which is going to be represented by that back-end database. All right. And then in this case, because I happen to have a Google Sheet, I'm going to import the structure of that sheet to serve as essentially the schema or the overall structure for my data. So in this case, I select a spreadsheet as opposed to if I had a CSV file. But since I'm going to go click on the select spreadsheet, and I just happen to have this tasks sheet handy. So the idea being that typically people would start off with like any number of spreadsheets and then they want to gradually migrate or upgrade to something that's a little bit more resembling like a web application. So this is kind of like the first step where I'm going to say, let's take that first spreadsheet. I have these different columns in here. It actually goes through and scans it so I can see that it looks correct, and I'll just click next. And then now I can override any particular data items that has been guessed based off of the data. So as you can see, like completed is a Boolean data type. The due is essentially a date. And the priority is a number. So it predicted it, but I could also override it if I wanted to. So I'll leave it as is, and I'll click Create. And so now we have a data model that we could then go on and customize further. So these are the fields that it got generated. If I wanted to, I could manually add another field based off of the data type that I want. But I'll just leave it as is. I will pop one of these open, and let's make it so this priority field is going to be a set of values, like possible values only. So I just added the numbers 1 through 4, and I'll click Done. And so now that particular field is going to be limited to only accepting values 1 through 4, right? So pretty straightforward. Otherwise, I can kind of keep everything default as is for this very simple example. Now I go back over to my UI, and I have this like kind of empty container, and I could customize further. I could add other types of panels if I wanted to. So all these different widgets essentially that I have to choose from. Now in this case, I need a way to insert some data. So a simple way to do that is just go over to this form widget. This is actually a wizard that will get invoked, and I just need to tell it which backend data model or data source, which is essentially going to query the data. And I just tell it which type of a form I want. So in this case, I just want to insert form. And then I can pick and choose which of my fields I want to have in my insert form. And so I just go ahead and I deselected a few of them, like I don't need completed, obviously. And then the ID is just the underlying database ID, which I don't need it at that point. So now I've generated my input form. I could go in further and say maybe customize some of the text. I could also tweak that so that it would allow me to go with a user picker based off of a directory model. Depending on time, we'll see how much we want to customize this further. But for now, I have a form. It's ready to go. The next thing I might want to do is add a table so I can actually see the data that I'm adding. So I'll click Next, and now we have kind of like a similar wizard. And in this case, I'll just go ahead and make all of the fields editable inside the table directly. So I click Next, and then I have some final options here like pagination or sorting or even like a little delete icon for the actual records. So I'll click Finish. And there's my table. Now this is like a design time view, meaning like it's just the widgets. It doesn't have actually the data showing. When I click Preview, you will actually be able to see the data. And then as you can see, I have individual widgets that are set up to allow me to interact with the data. So I should have also showed it to you up here too. It's like priority, so a little drop down now that is based off of the possible values and such. So that's basically it. I have a working app. One thing I typically do is I space the table below such that I can give myself like a 20 pixel margin in between the form and the table. So now I can just click preview. What it's doing now is taking the application I've designed and it's sending it to the AppScript runtime. So AppScript, if you know what that is, that's basically the runtime environment. I'll just put in like a quick bit of data. I have my little drop down. That got auto-generated now because I was able to add those possible values, and then I'll click submit. And there we go. Now I have some data. So that's kind of what I do for like a first pass. If I wanted to customize some further things, I could add a user picker, so I don't have to hard code in a particular owner. So depending on timing, and feel free to give me the hook whenever, otherwise I can just keep going. So another thing that's kind of cool is instead of having to hard code or manually code an email address, I can replace this owner field for the owner of the task that I'm, say, assigning, and I can say, let's instead use a user picker. So I'll just drag that over, stuff that right in, and then the first thing it's going to ask me is like, you need to set up a directory model. And so what this is like something that G Suite provides where I can essentially fetch from any kind of like a directory service, and that's all essentially set up by your G Suite instance. So now what I've done is, because I've inserted it, I actually have this new directory model where I have all these fields that I can now query from. So if I go back to my form, all I have to do is just I'll just change the prompt there, and then I will go to the value field, and I just have to set it to the owner. And so now this one that was generated, I can just hit delete, and now it's gone. And so everything shifts up now. So now if I click preview again, then it will get the update. Now it's on the server. So now if I just type in a few characters, it should do like a quick query back on my directory service, and it will give me like a closest match based off of that. And I'll just say finish demo, and I'll do priority 1, and I'll say let's do it. So there's the app. So that's basically it. You can kind of get a feel for how to build applications. I can do insert, update, delete. Also, what you're looking at here, this little surrounding part and this log section right here, this is what's known as the preview console. Now if I go back and if I actually publish this app, I would go through here and I would create a new deployment, and that's when that console window would disappear. So I could do that, but hopefully this gives you a general idea of how to build applications inside of AppMaker. Any questions, or if there's anything you want me to dig into a little bit deeper, I'm more than happy to do that.
I've got a couple for you, Christian. So one question is, why Google AppMaker versus other low-code tools?
So yeah, that's a good question. In general, I think AppMaker, yeah, there's definitely without a doubt other low-code tools. The thing that you have to keep in mind is that a lot of them are kind of tailored towards their respective solutions or their respective overall infrastructure that they might be coming from. So for example, AppMaker, because it's deploying to an AppScript runtime, AppScript itself is kind of like the common language between all of the G Suite products. So for example, it's very easy to create calendar entries or create documents or send emails, all using the AppScript underlying technology. And because AppMaker has the ability to natively go into that underlying AppScript technology, it makes it very easy to build very powerful applications that to integrate very seamlessly with the overall AppScript and the overall G Suite platform. That being said, yeah, if you have other overall platform technologies on site that you have access to, and if there's also corresponding low-code solutions that are plugged into that apparatus, then yeah, you could potentially use other products in a kind of a similar way. But I would say if you're a G Suite customer and if you have already invested in G Suite, this is definitely a good way to help you maximize your investment and be able to customize any types of applications that work with the various products within G Suite.
A couple more, and then we'll hand it over to John, and John can kind of wrap things up. Where can we learn how to use Google Apps?
So if you currently, actually I'll just open up a window here, or actually I can even use the product itself to navigate over here. So we have a number of helpful information here. For example, the docs right now, there is, if I just click on questions, oh yeah, so that's the Stack Overflow. Sorry, let me pop this up. I'll pop open a few windows as well.
That's okay. I think Sophie made herself presenter again. So I think she'll.
Oh, okay. So basically, I was just mentioning that you can access the docs I'll go ahead and show my screen. So as you can, so basically what I did was like, there's a number of links here off of this little menu that pops up if you click on the top left of the main menu. And so there's a number of tutorials and like, for example, in this case, I selected samples, and that brought us to like a much larger list of sample applications that you could actually click on these, and provided you have AppMaker installed, you can essentially get your own copy and learn how to build them. But if you also look, if I click on Home, this takes us to the home page for the docs, essentially the documentation home page for AppMaker. And so this is like a kind of like a nice high-level way to get started understanding AppMaker. And I should also, so this is for one thing, that's a good way to start. There's also a forum, so that you can link to from inside of AppMaker, and this goes to a public Google forum that has, you know, our overall community available. And whenever any questions get posed, you know, our team also looks at it and usually chimes in to provide some helpful advice. And then I should also say another way to, and this has been really cool from the third-party environment. So AppMaker University is essentially a third-party company that's providing training. And so that's where John could even talk about that. So this is what we found is like a nice complement to what we provide in the core documentation, but really anyone can go out to this third-party AppMaker University website and then enroll in the online classes and such.
Thank you so much. All right,
Sure.
John, I think you wanted to go over a couple of slides to wrap things up.
Sure, absolutely. Appreciate the shout out there, Christian. I think it's a good segue. And thank you for showing the demo. You know, we really wanted to show that demo to display the power of AppMaker, but how easy it is to get in there and build a functioning application in 5.5 minutes. It's really incredible how easy it is to use and navigate through. And there's a lot of good documentation that Christian showed, obviously, to further your education on it. And we're going to talk a little bit about AppMaker University and wrap things up here. So AppMaker University, you know, we're currently a Google technology partner, part of Ignite Synergy, and we have built an online learning management system to learn how to build within Google AppMaker. And so it's been trusted by hundreds of companies all over the world, and we'll get a little bit more into that. So there's many different ways to learn how to use AppMaker, and there's a variety of tools that we've developed and created over the years of even using AppMaker in the early days when it was still in beta before it went GA back in June of last year. So we've got our online e-learning, which as I said, you know, it's been trusted by over 150 companies globally, and we have our template store as well. And a lot of those are tied back to some of the templates that Christian showed at Google as well, to give you a little bit more insight and definition as to how those should be installed, to some that we've developed for you to use and leverage internally as well to kickstart your AppMaker project. We do offer boot camps as well, where it's in-person, instructor-led training, and you work in a kind of a group of individuals, and you get that one-on-one, you know, instructor-led, and you can ask questions as well. And then we offer personal coaching. We pair you up with Google AppMaker experts, and they help you, you know, walk through to get you unstuck. We always recommend taking the training first, or at least familiarizing yourself with the tool. It's just an expensive way to learn how to use it. We also have a YouTube channel, which is a great way to get started and just see how we've used AppMaker over the years and the videos and tutorials that we've made. Currently sitting at about, you know, 5,200 subscribers and over 60,000 hours viewed. So it's definitely been a really big community there, and you can be a part of it and check out the video stuff that we have. We build demos. You know, the proof is in the pudding. That's what I always say with any sort of development and you know, modernizing any of your systems and procedures and business processes internally. And we're happy to build those demos and showcase the power of AppMaker. And, you know, we usually have it, you know, done in 2-day turnaround times. We're pretty fast on delivering those. So if there's any business critical solutions or ideas that you have for your own organization to leverage the power of your Google assets, definitely reach out to us, reach out to Tempus Nova, and we can certainly help get that in front of your executive team as soon as possible. And last but not least is custom development. And we've done custom development for some of the largest AppMaker users all over the world, from you know, Nike to ASICS to Whirlpool and to Quora and the likes of that. And one of the things that I've been particularly interested is figuring out the cost savings from developing with AppMaker versus traditional development. We see on average over 70% of total development costs compared to traditional solutions. So depending on how big of a application or business critical solution that you're looking for, just know that from a cost perspective, it's going to save you a lot of time and a lot of money in development costs, and that's what really excites me about the power of Google Ad Maker beyond just how easy it is to use and get started. And that's really it, right? I did want to give a percentage off the boot camp for anybody that did attend this webinar, or will get these slides post-webinar. And if you have any additional questions, comments, concerns, feel free to reach out to me. We're very responsive for all things Ad Maker, and we're really excited to continue to explore the many applications and use cases for Ad Maker and get it in the hands of organizations like yourself